Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into OpenDoors.la. I am your writer and host, Ethan K. Akula, and today I am joined with Azura. What's going on, Azura?
Just hanging out here.
Cool. Hey, so listen, man. So you're from Michigan, which I think is so cool, and that's what I found of like your phone area code is like 248.
Right.
In Michigan, like the main area codes are 313, which is like central Detroit, and then like any of the neighborhoods like outside, like just outside, like I'm talking like 5-10 minutes, right? Is
Right.
like 248. So you're from
Exactly.
Troy, Michigan, which is
Yes.
like one of the next neighborhoods over. And I'm just so interested to hear from you about, how has Detroit, how has Michigan, how has Troy kind of influenced some of your music creation, and like how does that kind of, your background really fall into place?
Yeah, honestly, I would say it influenced me more like in my later years there than it did as a child, I think. I think my fondest memory is when like I think I was maybe 3 to 4, maybe 5 years into writing music. Maybe this is maybe 2, 3 years ago. And I think every single day, like during the summer, I would go on a walk just throughout the neighborhood and throughout like the general streets. And it was just like, it was such an, it became like part of my writing process because I would spend the day making music, and then around 3 p.m., 4 p.m., I'd go on this walk and I would listen to some of it. I'd listen to other music, or I'd listen to something to get my mind clear. And then I'd come back and maybe write a little bit for 30, 40 minutes at night after that. But that walk was sort of like what my day revolved around. And like living in LA, there are so many beautiful things here now, but it's not quite the same. Like the walks are busier, they're tighter, the streets are closer together, it's louder, and they don't quite feel the same.
Yeah,
So
man, it's not as peaceful for sure. I know a lot of people that live in Michigan, they'll like for the rest of the year will flock, right? They're called the
right,
snowbirds, the people that,
right, right,
are
right,
only in Michigan for the summertime and then like
right.
maybe a little bit of the fall. And then the rest of the year, they're in Florida, they're in California, they're,
Yeah,
any other place, right? Somewhere warm. And so, because it
right.
gets cold. And so for you, the summertime, being a big influence, especially like the Michigan summer. I don't know if you ever like went to the lakes or
Oh
anything, like
God, yeah,
just, yeah.
yeah. I think we all do, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you live in Michigan,
yeah.
like you go to any of
Right.
the lakes, and
Yeah.
there's like the small ones too, but of course like the
Right.
big lakes and Traverse City and all of these
Right.
beautiful places surrounded by fresh water. And I love that like in your music you can hear your nature influence, right? Like
Yeah.
as you're,
Absolutely.
so it's totally there. And I'm interested to know if there was like any sounds from Michigan and or your walks that you've like, either recorded or have tried to like recreate.
Ironically, I definitely got more into recording sounds after moving to Los Angeles.
Mhm.
So I cannot say that there's any. I don't think there's any song that I have that has anything I recorded, like any sort of field recording. I usually, honestly, for lots of my nature sounds, it's just like the same, like 10-hour long clip where I just cut it in a random place.
Mhm.
I don't worry too much about making the most unique, like nature ambience,
Mhm.
but I think, a lot of it for me, like from Michigan, is just I think I spent a lot of time outside compared, maybe not to the average kid in like the Midwest, but definitely compared to people here. And so, like that's such a large chunk of my childhood and early teen years were spent doing something outside. And I think that I just have never been able to divorce that from my music at all. So it's kind of an obligation for me when I write.
Yeah, and especially as a kid, man, I remember like in the summertime there was nothing to do. Like
Right.
it's not like
Exactly.
LA where there's like constantly events
Yeah.
and like community things happening for kids to like go partake in. There's just like time. So like one
Yeah.
thing that I always did was like go to the woods like near my aunt's house anytime I stayed
Yeah.
with her and just like be lonely in the woods or like bring a couple
Yeah.
friends and we take our bikes and we would just like spread out in the leaves, right? And just like let our minds kind of wander, you
Yeah.
know?
I can't think of, I can think of very few instances was like doing a specific task in the woods or something. I was just sort of in the woods, like to be in the woods, which I think is honestly, I think it's good for people.
Hmm.
I think we should probably do more of that.
Yeah, there's not much in LA in terms of like the woodland. There's, mountains and stuff, and that's a
Yeah.
hike, but just to go out like, down the street from your house and then bam, there's like a forest, which is so
Yeah.
crazy.
One thing I miss so much is just the silence when you're not by a main road in Michigan. I went home for the 4th of July, and like the first night when I laid in my bed, I was like, what the heck? What? And it was my like slight ear ringing that I don't ever hear in Los Angeles because there's always some constant noise in the background. And it was just silent in my room. And I'm like, this is crazy. I've not been in an area this quiet in almost a year. I mean, it was like the difference is so obvious.
It's a surreal experience, and you totally forget that, being in Los Angeles, because
Right.
you have so much noise pollution. Like
All
there's
the time.
helicopters and there's always loud cars, like no matter where you are, of just like the sound and the feeling and the rumbling.
Right.
There's no peace. There's no peace. It's hard to find. It's hard to find peace here. So I'm glad that, you're going home, maybe we're able to like take a step back and kind of like find that emptiness of a sound, right? That is, an important sound. I think it's dope.
Right.
So, when it comes to, your sounds and your music, you create a lot of like wacky sounds, right? Of like,
Right.
what I mean by that is like crushing peanuts. Like you have a peanut mix, and like I want to hear the story. Like, was it just one day you had a bag of peanuts and like you went to move them and it went, and you were like, wait a second, that could be a track. Like, what was that story like? What is that experience for you?
Unfortunately, it's not quite as like romantically inspirational where I'm like making some food and I touch the peanuts and I'm like, my God, that's the sound I need. It's usually I'll be walking around my apartment with this bad boy right here.
There it is.
And so I'll be walking around, I'm like, Jesus, I need to put something in the song that's interesting. And I'll just sort of start moving stuff and looking around and trying not to use stuff I've already used. And I'm like, we got these peanuts, I'm not going to eat them, so maybe it makes a decent sound. And turns out it was exactly what I needed, but usually it's just me messing around with items we have in the apartment.
Which is so funny because you're also seeing that now in like mainstream rap music, right? Of just like random sounds, whether it's like a door creaking or it's the cleaning glass. It's like right, and then someone is just like, that is the sound. And I imagine like, that's where my mind takes me, is it's this romantic thing, right? It's this like soul screeching journey of like, oh, and then there it is. But in all reality, it's just like, let's get creative, right? Let's get creative. And I love that you were able to take that thing, right, and with your keyboard, and you added stuff to it. So what is that process like for you when you're, once you maybe have that sound and you find that thing in your apartment or, in your neighborhood, how do you then, record that and then transfer that into, music?
Usually, sometimes it starts off with like the sound itself. It doesn't always. I don't think the peanuts were the first thing I recorded. I think I had a very vague, simple, I'm not even sure if it was anything more than just like a kick drum and a clap or something. And I was like, rhythmically, I think I need something surrounding it. And like anybody can use just like a shaker sound. So I was like, why don't I do what I would do with like a normal instrument, but just use something else. And so I was shaking a bunch of stuff. Nothing was like catching my ear. And then I added that. And I was like, okay, now this can sort of be something that I can build around. And with the other things, the other ones that don't feature too prominently in tracks, like you'll notice in some videos, like I'm pouring coffee, like that almost just gives like just an atmosphere to just like the small beat that I'm making. And you would notice it if it was gone, but you sometimes can't hear it like actively. And so with things like that, I think I'm just looking on trying to add something last minute usually to the video that's interesting. So sometimes it's like, it is like, wow, like that's a cool sound that I need to build something around. And then other times it's like I need to add something that's not generic to this. So what do I have?
I would also like to know about your dance. You seem to have like a keyboard dance, bro.
I think that's a nervous twitch.
Yo, you're like, when you're in it, I can't even do it like you. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh,
I want to see it. I want to see it. Show us how you do the keyboard dance.
Here, watch this. So I thought you were talking about my keyboard, like the big keyboard.
No. That keyboard right there when you're mixing music and you're dancing with the keyboard. I want a demo. How do we do that dance?
Here, let me set it up properly. Give me 1 second. So the way this works, the reason I'm dancing like that is because inside this little device, much like your iPhone, it has like a gyroscope that can tell if your phone's sideways, if it's right side up, all that. This thing has the same thing, but instead of telling you if your phone is to the side, you can actually change like parameters of synths by twisting it. So when I play, let me see if this works. When I play this note, can you hear that? So now when I do this, it should change.
And that's the same note.
Yeah. See?
So your movement really helps with the creation of that.
It's literally making the synth sound different. And so that's what this comes from.
Show us a little bit. Show us a little bit of that movement.
Let me get a little pattern going here, and then we will just see how it works. So if I do this, so now if I hold this down,
that's crazy, y'all. Yeah. Give it up. That's awesome.
Yeah,
for sure, dude.
Yeah, that was something when I found out I could do that.
Was this? How did that happen? Where you just were like, oh crap! You like moved your keyboard, and all of a sudden there was like this new sound.
I was messing with like some of the stuff that I hadn't really read in the manual, because of course I didn't read the manual. And I was like, okay, what does this G stand for? Like, G can automate something. I'm like, okay, G has got to mean something. I don't know what it is. And then I was actually using a different device that has the same function. Yes, I have a problem. I know. I own too many things.
Way too many different instruments.
And so I realized that one could do it. And I was like, wait a second. I'll bet you the other one can too. And I went straight to it, started shaking it around, and did exactly what I wanted. And now
that's amazing.
And now I'm like trying to use it in some songs, and I'm like, okay, this is just way too over the top, and I need to like relax and not put every single note to a gyroscope. But sometimes you can't help it.
For sure, man. For sure. And it's all about, creating something and then maybe tweaking a little bit and tweaking a little bit, right? So that's dope. So thank you so much for joining me in here, man. This was just great. Thank you for sharing your process, who you are, and everything about you. For more information on him, make sure you check out Azura on his IG at MusicAzura. Thanks again for joining me. I've been your host, Ethan K. Kula, and we'll see you on the next one at opendoors.la. Peace.